well, I think we can get going on some of the general stuff, if that's all right for you, John. My name's Susanna. I am one of the co-founders of Hustle Badger. I know everyone's much more used to Ed, but here I am. I'm the other one. I do all the boring stuff like finance. Um, Quick note on Hustle Badger, if you haven't heard of us, we are online education for folks working in product, founders, and increasingly anybody interested in AI. We've got a wiki, online courses, and we've been scaling up over the last 3 years. You can check out our website, hustlebadger.com, which helpfully we have all over John's lovely site. Just some quick housekeeping notes. We are recording the call, and we'll make sure that we shoot you an email afterwards with some materials that do a little recap of what we've covered today, so that if you have to drop off or anything like that, you'll still get the information. And yeah, but now for really the main event, the thing that everybody came for, which is John, who has come to teach us how to cope with the messy shit, including all of our own, which are to briefly intro him, he's an ex-Meta product leader. He's also held CPO roles at Dex, Springer Nature, and Elliptic. But I'm sure John has a little bit to say about himself as well. I'll be handling any questions. Shoot them into the chat as we go through, and John will be presenting. Over to you, John.
Cool, very good. Thank you very much. I speak very fast, so I shall be attempting to speak slower. Drop in the chat if I become unintelligible. I watched Dave Colleen recently explain that he was just going to go at 100 miles an hour and make no apology. So I should also try to speak reasonably fast and get to the content. Who am I? My own experience spans absolute startups. So I did, just from zero, am I unemployed or am I doing something amazing, through to billion-dollar portfolio at Springer Nature, big tech at Meta, scrappy scale-ups that was Dex and Elliptic. I'm going to talk mainly about anti-patterns. I think that's more interesting. I want to share what I've seen go wrong, how I've watched people, including myself, go wrong. So some big caveats up front. Everyone here might be at different levels. Some of you are responsible for making product work. Some of you are looking up at someone who you blame for product not working in your company. You may be a beacon of best practice. That your data science team isn't great. You may be wishing you had just one data scientist. I'm going to speak from my experience, and it may or may not resonate or be of use to you. I'll try to avoid being generic, and I'm almost certainly going to be wrong about things. So hopefully the Q&A will be interesting. So what are we going to talk about? Three things. Three should be the number of the topics. Number one, things you may be saying that infuriate, annoy, and discourage the very people you need to win over, which has been casually titled, Why Marty Kagan May Have Accidentally Make You Insufferable. Number two, accepting will take much longer than you ever thought, but feeling better about it because nearly everybody else is in the same boat, otherwise known as fixing what's in front of you while still dreaming big. And the third and final one will be how to tell if you're in the right company or not. I've got no set formula here, but some nudges to help you decide whether you should stay or go. So let me see if I can advance these slides. Yes, here we go. Okay, so number one, topic one, insufferable. Inspired, empowered, and insufferable. It sounds like a credible member of the book series. Many PMs, hopefully not you, maybe not you, fresh from the latest batch of Kool-Aid, will often willfully go on a kick your colleagues campaign. The CEO, CMO, CRO, and CFO are part of the problem. Their influence over product being inherently misguided, they can't help but be wrong. It's in their nature. A new world order is needed with product on top. Tech may or may not be allowed into the right side of the camp, or they may be kept with the them in the them and us war of enlightened versus the short-termist foes. All this despite the fact that product may not know their customers well. Sales might actively have blocked you because they don't want you to ruin an upcoming deal. There's no analytics in place. Your metrics, even if available, can't be tied back to revenue through some aligned pricing scheme. Your PMs only recently learned what P&L means. And you're looking to be crowned king while the rest of the org feels they have to survive despite you. To be clear, I'm not criticizing Marty. I think that'd be career suicide, so I'm not going to engage in Harry Carey on this webinar. But I think a lot of what he says gets misinterpreted. if I'm being kind. So he says product teams need autonomy, and some here ignore the CEO's constraints. He says product should report to the CEO. Some here marketing and sales are the enemy. He says focus on outcomes, not outputs. Some hear this as never commit to timelines. There's a trio that he suggests of the PM, designer, and engineer, and that is heard by some to mean sales and marketing don't get a vote. Empowered teams make decisions. We don't have to explain our choices to leadership. Missionary, not mercenary. Some here caring about revenue is selling out. So in the extreme, this leads to some seeing product, a lot of people seeing product this way. First and foremost, selling the concept of we can say nothing about anything. We have to wait and see. Meanwhile, the CRO, CMO are acutely aware of the next funding round or earnings call and are moving heaven and earth to make sure those hard targets are hit come rain or shine. You're hiking out hard, in the sailing analogy, for the theory of how things should be, having ignored all the caveats and prerequisites for success. You're chasing metrics no one's bought into, while the CEO feels gaslit for caring about how your roadmap will contribute to paying everyone's wages. If you're a junior PM and your CPO hasn't built the bridge from the CFO forecast through to the CTO spend, you'll really struggle to do it at the individual team level. You'll end up making nonsense revenue forecasts no one believes in, including you, killing your credibility, and making you feel even worse about yourself. Hopefully some of that you may recognize in yourself or others. Many are filled with the zeal of knowing what they're selling is right, but from a position where things are not working and you're not entirely sure how to do it. Don't put yourself outside the camp, looking down on others for not doing it right. Stay close to the rest of the team and stay humble. Get buy-in to what needs to be fixed. Check the product transformation vision you are selling has product market fit. And above all, show empathy. Things are not going to work first time, and you need to make sure that you're not being arrogant and you're not being overconfident, because when that first fall comes, you're going to need to have people still supporting you. I've now done a few product org and company level transformations. It does get easier, but equally the world is changing very fast, and it's always been true that what worked in one company may not work in another, and what worked in the past may not work now. When I started, the V model, for all of you who know that, the V model was taught best practice. It told you every day spent in a detailed specification will save you 5 days down the line. Textbook waterfall. I can remember working for Accenture, and I had lever arch files next to me, multiple hundred pages long, that we were incredibly proud of, system and product specs. That doctrine was being absolutely derided later. Now rapid AI prototyping is all the rage. Soon it will unleash a rash of guerrilla IT upon us. As the uncertainty ramps up, and no one's quite sure how things should be done, listening and keeping people with you will be more important than ever. So, number one, don't be insufferable. If you can diagnose it in yourself or others, sort it out. Topic 2, fixing what's in front of you while dreaming big, which I have got. This is like a demo for Nano Banana. So this is somebody mired up to their waist while staring at the stars. Okay, so if topic 1 was don't be insufferable, don't be an insufferable zealot, who looks down on everyone. Topic 2 is more about, well, how do you make where you work more product friendly? How do you move things the right way? There are no end of books out there with end step processes and frameworks, or you can just ask AI and it'll give you a credible answer, combine the best of every expert ever. What I want to tell you is it takes a long time. Carlotta from GiftGap did a great talk here a while back, and she said it takes months, and then quickly followed that up with that meant 18 months. And I'm guessing likely years to get to something reflecting book best practice. You need patience, both with yourself and your colleagues. I'm a very impatient person. I always want everything to be better, faster. I'm never happy with how things are. But you need to pace yourself. To make this a bit more interesting, let's look at how not to do it. So, number 1, advance the nano banana. Okay, so cross-functional teams with no one from GTM in them. Your North Star, when you're doing this, has like got zero currency with the CEO and CFO. You've created a product team and tech team happy space and look more disconnected than ever. People are looking over to the corner, wondering why you're smiling and feeling happier when they have no idea what you're up to. And you're probably under indexing on customer and pricing considerations. You might be taking for granted that happier users will translate to value. Maybe your buyer hates their users. You might be doing the equivalent of giving call center managers nice, big, fluffy headphones for their staff, beautiful leather ones. What the call center manager wants is ones that are wiped clean and are never stolen, that are so undesirable that they don't walk out the door. Um, you might think that your customer should care. You might be advocating that key RFP requirements, shouldn't be there, but they are. So please, 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 please make sure that you do a self-check. Are you happily excluding GTM? Don't. You'll need them for success to ultimately be a success. In the interim, maybe you'll be all right, but ultimately it won't work. In my own experience, you'll tend to struggle to get them involved. They'll probably tell you that they've got no time, they're too busy. Maybe they're too busy plugging revenue gaps from product that never shipped. They may not know how to engage. Their incentives may be too short term to care about contributing to anything that's a few weeks out, never mind 2 quarters out. But don't find happiness in isolation, like the dancer at the top of this hourglass. Do not find happiness in isolation. It is not success. It is just delayed failure. You need to build the bridge to GTM, and beefing up product marketing will probably help a lot. I said this to somebody actually yesterday, and I said, yes, that's what we need. We need to build product marketing. We don't have it. We have to build it. It's going to be how we're going to get our bridge. Okie doke. Number 2, advance the nana banana. Failing fast and forgetting why that's useful. So people need hope. The value of failing fast is moving on to better ideas. You need alternatives to jump to feed the engineering and revenue beasts that are awaiting and ready to be fed. And then people without options tend to conclude that the one option they have is okay. I remember a great talk at Mind the Product, I'm fairly sure, where a speaker asked if everyone believed in fail fast. Everyone's hands shot up. Of course I do. I read the book. She then asked who has killed a product, and no few hands left. She then asked who researched products one at a time, and whether people thought that was an issue for the willingness to discover bad outcomes. It really, really hit hard. It was a great talk. It brought home to me that most people, and myself included at the time, were not ready to fail fast. So, by way of a self-check, do you have a one-to-one ratio between things you're researching now and things you'll build next period? Don't. That's wildly dangerous. You're highly likely to conclude that that's what you should go ahead with. You're not prepared to fail fast. Accelerate research faster to make sure you aren't painting yourself into a corner. At Dext, I worked with Danielle McDonald, who's now at Google, and Divya Hughes, who's now at Meta. And they're both fabulous people. If you ever get a chance to work with them, please do. They transformed how we approach the investigation of new products. Before, we spent all our time and effort on postmortems. Why did this fully built feature fail? We had no bandwidth for anything else. Even if it was clear why it failed, the emotions of disbelief are so high, you're forced to spend a lot of time on it. For fans of Monty Python, are you sure the parrot is dead? Yes, the parrot is dead. Please double check. So we flipped things around. Much more on exploring fit earlier, made a big difference. The emotional drain of working on something you feel is going to fail is a disaster. The confidence to push through bugs and setbacks when you believe in the macro idea is huge. But even then, we still made the mistake of having too few things in the hopper. Too much love for a chosen child. So, be ready to fail fast, have things ready to go, be willing to switch when you find out negative outcomes. Number 3, there's only 4 of these. So, number 3, which is a half-built greenhouse with all the plants inside dead, which Nana Banana did a reasonably good job of instantly creating in this world of AI. Key skill of finding PowerPoint images gone from the world, no longer needed. Nana Banana just does it. You're selling long-term exclusively when the world just does not work that way. Rich mega corporations can wait for user love to translate to revenue. Your ordinary sized company probably can't. You need to engage with short-term realities. You need to deliver on what matters to the company, not what you think should matter. Now here's where I find a lack of a macro mapping of revenue through pricing to product initiatives really hurts. Instead of falling into the trap of being overly precise about things you're unsure of, use the swim lanes of investment bets approach. Divide all your spend bandwidth into board level objectives, for example, churn prevention and account health, new product development for sold separately, offerings, bugs and tech debt, etc. Defend why 20% is on NPD and why 30% is on account health. Have the argument with the CFO, CEO, CRO about what is right. No one knows what's right, but have the argument about what's right and agree what you're going to bet on, what you're going to go with, and go back and forth on it and own it jointly. Then separately debate whether the money is being spent well. Okay, there are two separate questions. Bet on this. Are you executing the bet correctly? So a quick self-check for everyone out there. Do you know the company's cash dynamic, revenue targets, key KPIs for the board and investors? Do you think others are wrong for caring about them too much? Winning in business requires balancing many things. Like in a video game, you need to collect the gold rings whilst keeping your health up and not being eaten by ghosts. Business is very, very similar. You can't just obsess about one thing and hope it'll come good in the long term. Accept that there are short-term goals that need to be honored. Challenge them, but challenge them as you build credibility. There was a great phrase I heard at Meta, which was, learn the game, win at the game, change the game. In that order. Attempting to do it in any other order will not work. You have to understand the game, you have to excel at the game before you have the right to say, I want to change the game. Number 4, the last one in this area, not fixing delivery. I should explain this strange picture as we go through. Confusing resisting feature factory with defending slow. Answering all milestone questions with agile says I can't say. Closing down questions on efficiency and looking over the defensive, forgetting you need to be fast to win, as well as build the right things. You know, the kind of phrase that execution eats strategy for breakfast. You have to be fast. You have to get that bit right. So allow for independent scrutiny of engineering excellence alongside product excellence. Don't defend what's not yours to defend. You may think it's a secondary concern, but do not dismiss or deny the validity of the concern. Oftentimes, people will want to kick technology through product. They don't want to go direct. They've run out of the energy to do it. So they want you to do it. Okay? And then sometimes you need to defend technology in order to, have a functioning workplace. But ensure you allow for that scrutiny. It's very, very healthy. Very, very healthy. You're not going to get anywhere if you don't have a good delivery engine. So self-check, are you being defensive? Do you think allowing a conversation about speeding up delivery will prevent or delay doing product right? Delivery can always be better. Allow efficiency and efficacy to be pursued in parallel. Blocking one will build distrust and dysfunction. Now, to this picture. A good friend of mine at Accenture, he said, John, on this project, we have turned up at a car crash to sell a car stereo. The car is wrapped around the pole, and we're like, you like a car stereo? Selling a car nowadays, the infotainment system is one of the biggest differentiators. It's why people choose cars based on the infotainment system. But that is assuming that the rest of the car works. Okay? You may be very interested in some areas of product excellence, but you have to have a competent delivery engine. Okay? That has to be working. So just make sure that you're focused on the right things. You may love all the books. Do not be selling a car stereo to a crashed car. I saw an elliptic when we unblocked delivery, the transformation it made. There was one product that had been stuck in work in progress for far too long, and nobody wanted to listen to us until it shipped. And no one did listen to us really until it shipped. It's like a hangry person, you need to give them the Snickers. And there was no good reason why it hadn't shipped. If there's anyone from elliptic here, there were good reasons, but I'm going to simplify. Let's simplify for the sake of the story. Same at Dext. Once we fixed velocity by refactoring some of the code base and adopting a more modern stack, everything became easier. All of our conversations became easier. So, if you're falling into these traps, leaving GTM out, not being ready to fail fast, selling long-term exclusively, not fixing delivery, I'd say just reverse. Get out of those traps. They're a terrible, terrible place to be. So where is the hopeful part, the dreaming part, the looking at the stars part, doing a whole pile of negative things? I think it's more important to try to diagnose the negative things and get out of them. It's very easy to fall into them. But the hopeful part is that knowing nearly everyone else is in the same boat, and that can keep you patient. Your team, your company, your CEO is not uniquely terrible. In fact, the companies in the book are the exception. All the PMs in those perfect companies have much easier jobs than you. Read the report, which test won, be double clever and check for statistical significance. All good. Easy, easy peasy. Versus wait for the next RFP result, conclude nothing concrete, discover all last year's data was incorrectly tagged, but even if it wasn't, it was too low volume anyway, it wouldn't have made a difference. The great stories are people who do great things against adversity. Be thankful you, most likely, have plenty of adversity, maybe loads of it. Relish it. You likely won't have got the job. You wouldn't have got the job if the company was perfect. Let's be fair. Okay, so it's one amazing opportunity to work through the things that are broken. In Meta, I saw the power of everyone hunting one goal. Uh, no separate product technology and GTM strategies, just one strategy, one goal, no bloated processes, just honest assessment of whether our goal was right and whether we were on track to hit it. The very first meeting I was in, I remember I had to double check people's roles because the head of engineering was saying things like, by my estimation, we should be at 97 million and we're at 92. Now, can anyone explain to me here whether it's a pacing issue and I shouldn't have assumed a linear progress or whether there's something else going wrong? And I was checking, is he head of engineering? Is he head of product? And the people who were able to answer is engineers. Everyone understood exactly what we were gunning for. It was eye-opening. I have been so used to people saying, well, product and the business want to do this, but we want to do that. And you're both sort of trying to marry these two separate things and not really going around one goal. They were so good at just one common goal, everyone able to explain it. At Springer Nature, I saw the power of persistence, sticking with it when you've lost sight of how the hell you're going to get through it. It took twice as long to get half as far as I'd hoped. But the sense of achievement was huge because the learning you get from seeing things through when you can't easily see a path through is huge. You gain belief in yourself, you gain belief in others. I'll come back to Springer Nature later when we talk about whether you're in the right company or not. At Elliptic and Dext, I learned the complex balancing act necessary to defend your engineering department's delivery and the power of scrutiny to improve things. I saw the power of fixing small things and the credit it buys you for selling bigger change. Above all, where I've seen success is where everyone knows why they are changing approaches and processes and not simply adopt something they've been told works. Know why, stick to the why, don't worry too much about the latest framework. It's heartbreaking to see a company of 100 people with 200 OKRs, knowing that nobody has ever read them, no one believes in any of them, and everyone is just waiting to figure out how they're going to step back from them. Okay, so know the why, stick to first principles, especially in this day and age when everything is changing. Understand first principles, stick with them. We're into our final topic, and then the Q&A kind of can go. Hopefully, I'm not going too fast, Susanna. I'll lower our time. So, topic 3: how to tell if you're in the right company or not. Okay, so some tips. Check your strategic alignment. If you have VC style ambitions, but you're PE backed, you may be tugging in the wrong direction. You may want to swing for the fences and be the #1 globally in your category. But the balance sheet aligned plan calls for a good enough suite of products sold through a common channel. Neither is right or wrong as a strategy, but if you're not aligned to the company's strategic choice, you need to change company or change strategy. I told this to somebody once, yeah, you're right, John, I know. And I said, well, what are you going to do about it? And, the answer was sort of like willfully hope the company changes strategy. The company is not changing strategy. The balance sheet is set. The die is cast. You know that you're the problem. So if you need to jump, jump. Second tip, don't learn alone. Learning on the job from others is so much easier than from a book or webinars. If you're lonely, if you've been flattered into the wrong role with a big title, seek learning. Take a junior role in a bigger team. We're in a difficult jobs market, however, so don't treat a move flippantly. You can try and offset loneliness by seeking out peers in other companies and helping them work through problems and work through your own problems too. People are remarkably open to this. Most people don't seem to avail of this. But you can find another peer in a different company, not a competitor, and just get their view on your problem and help them with their problem. And oftentimes you'll find as you give them advice and walk through the best practice you know and understand, you realize you're following none of it yourself. And that re-energizes you to go back in. So seek learning. It's a cliche, but it's very, very true. Um, Much easier if you are earlier in your career to go in with a bigger team and learn from them too, if possible, not always possible. Three, not everyone has it easier. If you think everyone has it easier, your CEO is uniquely bad, your investor is uniquely unenlightened, the grass must be green on the other side, then hold your horses. Doing it right is hard, it takes time. Your job is to bring people together, to build consensus, not just find people who are pre-aligned. Okay? So the fact that I'm trying to come up with the polite way of saying this, the fact that it's a bit of a mess is normal. It's not that you're going to go next door and it's going to be all great. Also, the fact that it's a bit of a mess, as I said earlier, is your opportunity. You know, if everyone's pre-aligned, there isn't a role for you. Aligning them, that's your opportunity. So don't run away from that, seeing that as a problem, a prerequisite that needs to be met. No, that's just the job. And lastly, culture and values matter. If you can't stand the people, not what they say, but how they say it, if you don't respect the values and culture, then pick better next time and get out when it makes sense to move. But if you're being an insufferable zealot, people may be reacting to you in understandable ways. So check yourself and make sure that you're not actually putting people off and not getting reflected back to you. And there was a friend once, he rang me up and he said, John, I've just been offered the job of my dreams. I think it was like 70K. I'm going to get to do work I did in my PhD. I absolutely love it. People are lovely. And I'm racked. I can't figure out how to decide because this other company, Evil Core, have offered me 75K, 5K more, to work on something I have no interest in whatsoever, And I was like, are you? I didn't know if he was joking. I didn't know if it was a wind up. It is very hard for people to actually value values, you know? And so just make sure when you've written down your values and you've figured out what it is that you want, that you actually ascribe proper value to them. Sometimes that will come at a cost. Doesn't always come at a cost, but I've witnessed many people just fail to make that choice. And then inevitably things don't work out as you might expect. I said I come back to Springer nature. So I've seen the value of doing what you don't want to do or didn't want to do. I joined Springer Nature and my cheese was moved so hard, I had no idea where my cheese was, never mind where the fridge was. I joined to transform the scientific publishing industry, to radically overhaul it, attack the big beasts. And instead, I ended up doing post-merger integration to help shore up an oligopoly. Um, Not what I'd signed up for, but a very, very interesting problem. And once I accepted that actually the problem was hard, it was something that I'd be able to use in the future and properly reset, I was okay with it. You know, Going in and being able to cope with imperfections makes you relevant to 99% of the world, not the 1% of the world that's already sorted it all out. If you're having difficulty with aligning orgs and all that sort of good stuff, maybe step back, see if that's a problem worth solving, nothing's in the way. And then if you can, attach to that problem, to a proper good PM problem, and maybe that'll make you a bit happier where you are. So in conclusion, before we move to the Q&A, and we have plenty of time, check yourself before you wreck yourself. If you're making enemies of people by being an insufferable person, don't. You're missing the point. Most PMs are nice people. We're a lovely group of people. Stay inside the camp, stay humble, and bring people with you. Second, takes years, not months. Everyone else is struggling. The companies in the book are outliers. Be patient with yourself and others. If it was easy, it would be boring. I have no desire to work on easy problems. It's horribly boring. The second I know how to solve something, I almost lose interest in doing it. Um, and also, just don't take things too personally. You need to be okay when the project is not okay, when the company's not okay. I've seen people have a keel, big heavy thing at the bottom of the boat, helps even things out. Even out your own emotions. Don't put all of your self-worth into your job, which hopefully you aren't doing, but a lot of people do, and it really, really hurts them. And if you're falling into the traps of non-cross-functional teams and not ready to fail fast and selling long-term exclusively and not fixing delivery, then get out of those traps and get back on course. Third, and finally, remember why you got into product management. It's because you want to solve hard problems for real people. The organizational stuff, that's just another hard problem to solve, and you're good at solving hard problems. Maybe your troubles are your opportunity. In Friends, an out-of-work actor has a larger apartment than most millionaires. TV isn't reality. Books about best practice are equally not reality. Don't feel bad your flat is smaller than Joey's, and don't feel bad your company is less perfect than Marty's. And with that, Susanna, what's been going on in the chat?
Not much yet, but I wanted to throw the floor open now to ask John any questions after that wonderful talk. Feel free to just come off mute. And if people are still thinking of a question, anyone? Any questions? I've got one to start, if that helps, John, while other people
Yeah,
are pondering. Um, so I'm from the COO GTM side, and
yeah.
I have a long history of terrifying lots of product managers. How would you recommend that people take that step across the divide and build those working relationships with their GTM colleagues to build these cross-functional teams?
So I guess it really depends on what level you are in the org, as you might expect. So if you're up at the top of the and you're the CPO, you need to start getting into mapping how the investment, where this much man days, this much of bandwidth, actually maps through to the revenue targets. And people would be remarkably reticent to do this. You would think people would want to do it, but generally, sales and marketing often don't want to do it because what they fear is they're going to have to factor in non-delivery of new product and deliver the 40 million target. And then if actually new product comes, then they have to do 45 million. And they know that 40 million is too much of a stretch in the first place. They have no idea how they're going to get there. And they don't want to get ratcheted up to 45. So at the very top of the org, you need to have some way where you're going to just align the CFO through to the CTO spend and live in the sort of adult world where there's lots and lots of uncertainty rather than saying, I guarantee that this feature, moving this button to here, will add £50,000 and then these other things will add up. And I've seen companies demand that as each one. Absolutely. And CRO together and say, look, how are we going to do this? How are we going to defend to the board that 20% of money is going in here? And how are we going to know when to, jack up the price to hit the revenue target because this product is unlikely to come to fruition on time? Okay, so that needs to get in place at the top. Then down at the bottom, you sort of really want product marketing people involved very early. Like, can you imagine selling this? Just write the two-pager now. It's never going to get better than how you're imagining at the very beginning of the project. So I find that getting people in from product marketing, which may be your product person acting like a product marketeer, it may be a marketeer acting like product marketing. You may be very lucky and have a dedicated area called product marketing. But I'd say that's probably the easiest way when you're at the other end of the spectrum is sort of write the press release, see whether you can come up with the tangible statement of value. And terrifyingly, a lot of people can't do that. Like, people have kind of become very solution oriented and are pushing it. but they're not able to come up with an actual statement of value that would make a drop in the market.
Great, thank you very much. Throwing the floor open to all of you guys now. Ah, right, I've got one from Vihan. He says, thanks a lot from this very real talk. By the way, everybody else can also come off mute and speak for themselves. I'm just going to read out Vihan's because he's popped it in chat. Lots of insights from you, Sharon. Can you talk about the most challenging problems that come to mind that you enjoyed solving and how you would do it differently now that you're on the other side of it?
Wow. I think the most challenging problems I didn't enjoy solving, and at the time were absolute hell. Post-merger integration was really, really difficult. Um, you're taking two companies that prior to being integrated were very self-aware and knew that they needed to be so much better. And all the conversations were about, we're crap at this, let's try that, let's get better at this. It was all about growth. It was all about being unsatisfied with where we were and where we wanted to get to. And the second you go into a sort of adversarial merger situation, everyone defends how things are and they're selling the glory of the way that they currently do it. And that whole growth and let's stretch ourselves went out the window. That was really, really difficult. And I had to, at one point, sort of say, look, I think this merger can work. You know, they and we are not the enemy. So I stepped into the middle between the two orgs to try to bring them together. And I learned at that point in time, everyone hates you because you're a traitor to one side and you're a wannabe to the other. And in fact, one of my nicest product managers, we had this funny internal intranet. And she said, I'm sorry there isn't a dislike button, John, but if there was, I would have clicked it on your article. I hate it. This thing will never work. It should never have been done. We should all give up. Um, anyway, I stuck with it and it took a lot of just personal equity to convince people that other people were good, that they were well intentioned, that they should be listened to, that you should assume good intent. Nothing to do with processes, nothing to do with all the classic things. It was just believe in other people, show empathy, and try and get closer. And that took a lot out of me personally. I was looking at photographs of myself from back then. I was I was a blotchy mess. God, I was stressed beyond belief. But it paid off, and that by when it did pay off, that felt amazing. Felt absolutely amazing because it was a real gamble. I had no clue that it actually would work in the end. And the reason I stuck with it was because somebody, when I went there, headhunter said, "You better stick around. You move around too much. I do, I indulge myself, but it's like stick with that." So I stuck with it, and I'm very, very pleased that I did. There are other things, more micro, like at Meta, there were loads of interesting problems. I dealt with everything that you see in the press. Um, Fraud, scams, extortion, really, really, really challenging and difficult things. And watching, brilliant minds come together to solve things in ways that no one person could do. Like it really did take a cross-functional team. That was magical. I really enjoyed that. More questions?
More questions? Vihan, did that answer your question? I mean, I think you might have to take, John out for a coffee to get all the war stories, but any more for any more? Okay, in that case, John, thank you so much. Oh, sorry, Marina,
Oh,
it just came off mute.
Sure. As I've been listening, thanks, John. This was very interesting and informative. And as you know, like sometimes I'm starting to kind of struggle to figure out like what exactly are we as product managers do, right? Like you mentioned this whole kind of like the reality that feature factory is almost it's not like inevitable, right? Like you have to move fast, especially early on as you're winning, customers. I'm working on a 0 to 1 product right now, and it's a B2B product, so it's hard not to go into like trying to win those early and bigger customers. And part of me wonders, like how exactly like the product strategy fits into what we're doing.
Yeah,
It's hard to find like that kind of that piece that we're supposed to be bringing.
yeah. So here's where um, I think this is where the use of words and the way that product is used is really annoying. Product, I think at its best, people are talking about the abstract product, not the org. And to a certain extent, maybe it should be the proposition. It's not just the abstract product, it's how it's going to get actually presented in the market, the full thing. And so, oftentimes I'll go in and they'll be like product, the org, working on its bit, what it thinks it needs to do, find love and do this and do that, and not kind of fronting to the whole bigger thing, and then feeling like it has to sort of offset the rest, as opposed to just reconciling it all and say, I need you to market it, I need you to sell it, I need you to be able to build it on time, and I'm going to manage all of the trade-offs. If you view it that way, like you're not trying to counterbalance with your missionary joy counterbalance this evil business. You just say, no, no, no. I just have to make it work. I've got to collect the gold rings, stay healthy, and not get eaten by the ghosts. I've got to, pimp this thing to get that RFP. Then I've got to pull back hard and actually spend stuff on stuff that's more extensible. I think it's much better when you own the whole thing and you own all those compromises rather than feeling that you're trying to resist those compromises or your job is to be, I'll be here and someone else will reconcile it. Someone else doesn't come in and reconcile it. You know, I do feel like and this is kind of like this slightly, what, niggly framing of topic one. I think too many people are sort of like, I'm here to bring long-term love, and the rest of you are some sort of nasty compromise. As opposed to, um, the ATM laughed at me yesterday when I asked for money. The investors don't believe in us anymore. Let's go out and make all the necessary trade-offs to actually win in the market. Let's bring something great, but let's do it in the right order. Let's win the RFP. Let's beef this up later. Let's accept that there's churn in that area. And I don't see enough of that. So I think if you accept that that's the job and you're doing all those trade-offs, you feel a lot happier. If you think that you're on the sort of I've got to be the beacon of long-termness, then you'll be a lot less happy. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thanks, John.
And I think, like, listening to people who are much bigger and better than me, they're like, we want PMs to go back to being generalists, because who the hell knows how things work? So just, is this shit worth paying for? Can we build it? I mean, will anyone want it? And just speak to some more fundamental questions and then and cover that off and do it at pace. And I think we'll all be much better off for that. Then the other thing, talking a lot here, but the other thing that is like our jobs are so different. Like we're all lumped into one thing in product, but somebody is the PM for a deep technical API, and someone else, is a privacy risk manager in a giant government thing, and someone else is doing a sort of growth style job in a B2C company. Like the roles are very, very different. And so I'm always loathed to sort of give generic advice. So if anyone is feeling like, look, that just doesn't resonate with me, it's perfectly possible that, there is quite little commonality across many of these roles. More questions, come on. My ego needs you to ask me questions. I feel like we haven't succeeded if people just drive off. So I'm going to throw myself out there, ask more questions. And worst case scenario, we'll just have to ask people. Do we have anyone to step forward?
Any more for any more? No one wants to help out John's ego?
Helen,
I,
go
I
on,
don't.
Helen.
I
You
don't have
came
any
first. You give to get the last word.
I don't have any questions. I would just say that what resonated for me was the mergers piece. Um, I'm product manager in for a business that was acquired by a larger business. So we're very much in that integration
Yeah.
stage while also trying to grow and evolve. So that definitely resonated for me. That is the challenge of balancing all those things and the ego side of things. Are they right with the way they do it? They've done all this testing. They've validated stuff with data. Maybe we haven't, but we've still seen successes. So um,
Yeah.
it's just very very interesting. So yeah. Um,
I remember working with a CEO once, and I had to explain to him, you treat your children like foster children and biological children. Like everyone knows who's the foster children, his biological children. They all know to expect different sizes of presents, and they're going to get talked about differently. You've got to put a huge amount of effort in to not do that. You've got to stop saying them and us. You've got to make sure that the IT department means you don't have to dial 9 to call one colleague and dial 0 to dial another. That the email alias doesn't remain different, you know. And you've got to work on yourself a lot because no matter how much you actually believe it abstractly, there's lots of micro behaviors you've got to beat out of yourself.
Absolutely. You've got to find an alternative way to refer to it because it's still something you need to refer to while you
Yeah.
are still integrating.
Yeah.
So if you're told you can't use one set of terminology for something anymore, you
Yeah.
need to be given an alternative while they are still tangibly different.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, managing that defensive gene as well. I've definitely at times, you get the feedback and you've got a very strong instinct to defend. And in an emergency situation, that becomes very, very difficult. Cool. Well, my ego has now been satiated, so we don't need to have any more questions. But if anyone does have any questions, and we can cut, Susanna told me we can cut the recording at any point. So if somebody just doesn't fancy being immortalized on YouTube with their question, we can agree from here on in, you're okay. It's just us. It's just us chickens.
Well,
Hey,
John, if
Behan, there we go. I could see you were on the edge. I could see you were just on the edge.
I'm afraid not another question at this point, but it's just really interesting to learn from your experience, especially with the maturity that you've of course have had to develop across so many companies that you work for. Um, I was at ResearchGate not too long ago for a
Oh,
product tank
my,
event,
very cool.
and they did talk about how well, one of the product managers over there was a he's an acquaintance, and he did talk about how he was unhappy with
Yeah,
the product culture over there. So what you just talked about was quite relatable. I
yeah,
deal with a similar situation in my world. I work in public sector, um, where the rest of the org is very much waterfall because they're not
yeah.
non-tech, non-product. And I just put a comment in the message box as well. So I work for a non-product orientated company where other non-tech verticals work very waterfall way. So finding that rhythm and being able to communicate with people, getting them along, has been a real challenge.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. You know what I find very difficult as well is I remember I was in a VC backed company, and the VC would get all the different CPOs together to share best practice. And people would say, well, I do this, I am perfection squared, and I do this and that. And I remember calling one of them up directly after and said, "Do you really do that? Tell me straight." Well, we don't do it yet, but we're planning on doing it. I was like, well. The difference between that is me leaving this forum thinking I'm uniquely behind, and this person who hadn't done it a few months ago has gone through it and sailed through it, whereas I've started to do it. It's quite difficult. People are, I was chatting to Claude and Gemini about this chat, and they were like, it's good to counter toxic positivity, where everything is just look at what amazing things I've done. So. Um, do not feel too bad about wherever your org is at, and you can feel probably better about yourself if you do move them on a little bit than
yeah.
joining somewhere where really it's sort of handed to you on a plate. Here, thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it. So thank you for letting me do this. Hostel Badger is fabulous, by the way. So if I don't, you probably all know this, but I did the AI course to sort of get your hands dirty and build stuff. Amazing fun, and actually very useful too. So I should sort of add this on as a unpaid for mini advert at the end. Cool. Thank you very much. I shall
Thank
sign
you,
off.
John. That was
Cheers.
wonderful.
Thank you all.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you, John. Bye.
Bye.